And so it came to pass that the human race fell, and the earth was no more. And I looked down upon my new dominion as master of all, and I thought it good. Yes, folks, John Simm is returning to Doctor Who. Now, if you've not seen John Simm as a master before, you've missed out. He's fantastic. I am biased. He was one of my favourite actors. I loved him in Life on Mars. And my first experience of the Master in Doctor Who was John Simm. Well, very briefly, Derek Jacobi? Yeah, I think I butchered his name. Anyway, John Simm was my Master. Opposite David Tennant's Doctor, who is probably my favourite Doctor, although the other two since have had some fantastic moments. So we know a couple of things. We know he's filmed a huge chunk of content for this season. We know he goes up against Missy. We know he also works with Missy. And that's about all we know. And we've seen he's got the beard and the blonde hair. So I want to put forward a pretty radical idea. What if John Simm is the new Doctor? Yes, I'm not being insane, but maybe I am. Well, let's talk about it. Well, first of all, John Simm's name gets brought up every time they're recasting the Doctor, because he pulled a great job as the Master. So he's certainly got the acting chops, he's got the fan love, and he loves Doctor Who himself. So straight up, the first issue with him being the Doctor, and there are many issues, is it's been explicitly stated that he is the Master by both himself and Stephen Moffat. But this wouldn't be the first time Stephen Moffat's pulled the wool over our eyes. And also, who's to say he doesn't play both in this season? We know that the Doctor regenerates during this season. We know no Doctor's been announced, and we know how much John Simm has filmed, but that's about it. So who's to say that John Simm doesn't eventually become the Doctor? Now the second thing would be, how can the same actor play the Master and the Doctor? This question is much more easily answered, considering, off the top of my head, Peter Capaldi's Doctor, Gwen Cooper from Torchwood, the Sixth Doctor, Martha, Karen Gillan, Amy Pond, have all played multiple roles on Doctor Who, and I'll put up a brief reel of all the ones I can think of. Now, perhaps there's logic and reason behind all of them. For example, they say that Gwen Cooper is descended from Gwyneth, her ancestor, and they're both from Cardiff. It's possible that the Sixth Doctor wanted to remember something about the guard on Gallifrey that was also played by the same actor, Colin Baker. And we know that the 12th Doctor took the face of Caecilius to remind him of something in... Well, it was such a really good, cool build-up for such a crap, if I'm honest, payoff, that I don't even remember why I remembered Caecilius. But it took the face anyway. So what if he comes face to face with Missy, and through various machinations she ends up killing him, and so he starts to regenerate? Now, the closest the Masters came to being good is when he saves the Doctor from Rassilon and the Time Lords and stops him destroying Earth. And we don't know what happened to him after that and how he came to be Missy, but you can bet it probably wasn't a nice happy story. So we might see John Simm playing the Master in the lead up to his regeneration into Missy, and then if Missy can kill the Doctor, perhaps he tries to regenerate into a face that Missy will remember to remind her of when she was almost good. I think that would be really compelling, and to be honest, the great motivation of it is you get John Simm as the Doctor. Now, Chris Marshall has been touted for this a lot, and if I'm perfectly honest, I really don't want to see that. He was in a British series called My Family, and he was good in it, but he just played this huge, big, floppy, silly idiot of a character, and the point in it was for laughs, and his kind of Doctor the reason they were saying the BBC might cast Chris Marshall is because they want someone who can play a similar kind of Doctor to David Tennant. But David Tennant had this really hard edge that I'm not sure if Chris Marshall could pull off. But anyway, back to John Simm. He's actually not working on too much at the minute. Now, he's been on The Catch, which is a US show on NBC. And he's got a recurring role in that. But I'm not too worried about that. I'm fairly sure it's already past production. I'm just checking up on it just now. It's past production and it's about to start being aired. So he's got a wee bit of time, which is obviously how he's been filming Doctor Who. He's also got a mini series called Collateral, which is coming out next year. But it's also by the BBC, and it's a mini series of 4 episodes. So he's gonna have quite a bit of time. And there's no big projects on his horizon, so perhaps we might actually find out he's got quite a lot of time to play the Doctor. Although I have to say, I think if he did take on the role, again, I don't think it would be a long-term role. I think we've seen the longest Doctor we're going to see for a little while, and David Tennant, who, to be honest, I wish had gone as long as Tom Baker, but I suppose that would detract from Tom Baker's cracking record. So we've covered that multiple actors can play multiple characters in Doctor Who. We've covered that Stephen Moffat lies. We've covered that John Simm would love to do the job. Would it work? I think yes. I think everyone wants to see 2 masters in play, but there's no reason they can't work that in anyway. Missy against John Simm could be so compelling that you love it, and it's not like it'd be forcing Peter Capaldi out. He's leaving anyway, which is hugely disappointing to me, but I understand that you can't expect actors to play the same role for years and years and years, especially when it's usually by actors who are starting out, and Peter Capaldi's at the height of his career. John Simm also did an amazing run in Mad Dogs, where he got a couple of BAFTAs, so he's been riding high, but his past couple of years have actually been fairly quiet. We've got the potential for a lot of interesting stories. You could even bring back some old characters. I don't want to see a huge, how do I put it, nostalgia wave, although they are trying to attract fans back to Doctor Who, while still making it accessible for a new generation, which I'm not sure if John Simm, not that it wouldn't be accessible, but there'd be so much to understand with the fact him playing the Doctor, and I suppose they could just not play off it very often. It could just be a thing this season, and then next season it's just his face. But if you could bring back any number of old characters who would freak out at seeing him look like John Simm. Although on that notice, someone at some point has to bring back John Barrowman as Captain Jack. Whether it's in American Torchwood or in this series, because he would also freak out seeing the Doctor Who with John Simm's face. But anyway, that's for another video. This has been my brief, quick, rambling little thoughts on what could be a really interesting twist. But anyway, I've been Sam, and have a nice night, guys. Cheers now.